I reckon the best ones are seeing people stay compliant, seeing the drivers be successful, seeing a driver retire with his family and grandkids and had a great truck driving career.
Welcome to Beyond the Bulldog, presented by Mack Trucks. I'm your host, Brian Wright. What you can expect from Beyond the Bulldog is to learn, enjoy, and participate from the comfort of your seat, whether on the road or off. This is mile marker number 16. We speak with Rick Cates, a consultant with Rick Cates Trucking, whose experience in trucking spans 50 years. In this episode, you'll learn how getting a CDL has changed over time, what the most important safety feature is in a truck, and who the GOAT of the North American Truck Driving Championship is.
You're listening to Beyond the Bulldog, presented by Mack Trucks.
Rick Cates, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, my pleasure.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Yes, you are a consultant with Rick Cates Trucking, but we're going to talk about you, your history, safety, things like that.
Okay. Yes.
Well, welcome. So for those listening and watching, why don't you introduce yourself, a little bit about your background?
Okay. I'm Rick Cates, and I've been in the industry going on 55 years in the trucking industry. Started out like most people in the industry as I worked on the dock, moved up to switcher with Burlington Industries, large textile giant. We had a large transportation division, one of the largest in the country. And ironically, our transportation division back in the day was larger than Walmart's transportation division back in the day. So we had a pretty good, pretty huge transportation division. We had terminals scattered throughout the United States and reship agents. But I worked up to driver. I drove, and then I was a driver instructor, and then worked in training and safety, and then the director of safety and training with Burlington Industries until they were textiles going overseas and so forth, and they were downsizing. So then I made the move, and they called from Raleigh. I went to work for the North Carolina Trucking Association, and great members, great people, and worked there for 14 years. And then made the move to American Trucking Associations briefly, but I had a relationship with the ATA, American Trucking Association, since I started in the industries way back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So then I left the American Trucking Association's Marsh & McClellan called and asked if I would come and help them with audits and their transportation clients. I did that and then retired from Marsh & McClellan and JMJ Consultants out of Austin, Texas, and London, England. Called and asked if I would do some contract work and consulting for them, and I did help them with some of their clients. And then semi-retired, never out of the industry. You know, if you're in transportation, you're in trucking your whole life. Yeah. And so here we sit. That's kind of it in a capsule.
Well, that's fantastic. What got you into trucking? How did you start?
Ironically, the whole family, just like working in Detroit. If you worked in Detroit, basically your whole family was in the automotive business. They went to work in the plant. Southern Textiles, the little Mill Hill communities and so forth, just like Burlington, North Carolina, where Burlington Industries got its name, was a mill village, mill community. Yeah. And my whole family worked at Burlington Industries. Except my dad. My dad didn't, but my mom, my uncles, and so forth, all of them, aunts and uncles, worked in the mill. Yeah. So we lived near the transportation division, the old terminal, and the trucks used to come by my house every day. And I used to go out and try to get the drivers to blow their horn. Yeah,
I understand.
And so I went to work in the mill. Yeah. I went to work and worked in the training department, ironically, as a clerk. And I helped copy the training packages and so forth. And back then, the mills were huge. We employed 1,100 people. They were just huge.
Yeah.
And one day I had to still watch the trucks going up down the road. And one day I had to go up to the terminal, which was next to our plant, and borrow a projector that we were going to use for some training. And the assistant terminal manager, I sat down and talked to him. But come to find out, it wasn't totally about the money, but I said, I like trucks and so forth. He said, if you ever want to make the change, let me know. And we were in the process of building a brand new state-of-the-art terminal in Burlington on the interstate. And the funny part about it, he said, I can't start you driving. You don't have the experience yet, but I can start you on the dock. He told me how much. And I said, wait a minute, what did you say? And he told me what the wage was on the dock.
Yeah.
He said, don't broadcast that because it's kind of a big difference between some of the wages in the plant and some of the wages transportation. And about 6 months later, I got a transfer, went over there, and the rest is history.
Yeah. And you got behind the wheel, too.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what was that transition like? Because clearly driving a truck's different than running a dock.
It is. It is. Well, we had a semi-training program way back then. We would work the dock, but they would take you out into the truck yard and let you switch the tractors, and that's where you learn to back, and that's where you learn to drive around the yard, around and around and around. And back then we had the chauffeur license. We didn't have a CDL. So we learned to change gears and learned to drive on the yard, and we had a huge yard. And then when they thought it was time and they needed a driver, and your number came up, you were on a list, and then the driver instructor, which was just a senior driver, no formal, whatever, he would take you out local, driving around town, and then you'd run 1 or 2 trips over the road. And he thought that you could make it.
Yeah.
He would sign off and let you go.
Yeah.
Now it's a little more complicated than that when we know.
For all the reasons, right?
Yes.
There's a lot going on with a big truck. You have to understand how all that works and the weight, the laws, and it's not just a mentorship anymore.
No, and we developed, I assisted, but we developed a training program I still use today, and systematic training program, STP or systematic training program. And just a minute, and I learned to fly. I'm a pilot, so you had to go back, and the STP, we would take the driver just a little minute things in the cab like a checklist. And we would go over that and go over it and go over it until we were satisfied and that driver was satisfied that they could do it, and we would sign off. Then we'd go to the next section and just work our way up like a building block until we got that driver where it came second nature for them to do a pre-trip check, get their bills, 7-gate check. You got your driver's license, you got your medical card, you got this, got that, and check it off. And
So where were your routes? Were they local? Were they long haul?
Yeah, my routes were basically southeast. A couple of times I would go across the United States. We had, as I said, reship agents, but most of our routes were right up and down the eastern seaboard. The eastern seaboard of the United States of America, starting in Maine, going all the way to Miami, is the most heavily traveled transportation corridor anywhere in the world. That's planes, trains, trucks, cars, buses. So if you're going to learn to drive a truck and you're going to drive a truck, taking nothing away from the people on the 5 in L.A., that's taking nothing away from them.
Right.
And the Dan Ryan in Chicago, taking nothing away from them. But if you're driving that corridor up and down the eastern seaboard, you need to have that experience and know what you're doing.
What were some of the lessons you learned? Starting into trucking, it was a mentorship. All of a sudden, you take the training wheels off, if you will, and now you're behind the wheel and you're learning from others. What are some of the bigger lessons you've learned?
Be patient.
Okay.
I learned, I was fortunate to have some mentors that started way back in the 30s and come up through the 40s, and no power steering, no air conditioning, and they didn't have what we have on these trucks today. And I was able to learn from them, and they taught me a lot. But one thing they did teach me when driving, patience.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've learned that paid off with the patience is that I've never had a ticket and I've never had a crash.
I was going to ask you that.
Yes. We don't call them accidents anymore. Accidents are something that you can't control. And, I'll leave it at that, whether it's in life or whatever, knock a glass off or whatever.
Right.
Crashes are something that we can control. Every crash can be prevented. Every crash on the highway can be prevented. So I was able to have some good mentors and so forth. And then, the old truck drivers back in the day that wore the chauffeur's hats and so forth. And so I learned from those guys. They taught me a lot, yes.
So back to driver safety training at Burlington Industries. What are some of the things that you implemented that you thought were very important for truckers?
Well, that was that STP program that we implemented. And we had a training program that has been more than copied by, and I still use it today after 40-some years. It's still tried and true. But the players have changed, the technology has changed, and so forth. But the most important thing on a truck, whether it's technology or whether it's the tires, the engine, the interior, look like apartments today. They got all the necessities and so forth. And I'll tell anybody, the most important thing that in that truck is the driver between the steering wheel and the seat.
Yeah.
A good, well-trained truck driver is the biggest safety component on that truck.
Yeah. What stories would you like to share about your experience in training at Burlington Industries?
Everyone was different, and I can remember just about not everyone that we went on. Some of them comical, and one of them that I remember it was right here in this area, and I was check riding with a driver, and we were over here near the airport at GSO over here at Piedmont Triad Airport. And we had over on Market Street, where the old J.P. Stevens plant was, and we had crossed over the rail line to go into the dock. And as we were leaving, and I usually help the drivers, if they were experiencing, because we checked out every driver. And we pulled out, and I said, and I called his name. I said, now remember, you pull up to these little side tracks don't have guards that go down, bells and whistles and so forth. Never pull up on the track, because I told this driver, I said, you can go ahead and pull up because we'll have to get out to get to traffic. And I said, never pull across the track unless you have clearance to get across the track. And at that time, we were pulling across the track, and I said, so remember that. And he said, you talking about a train? I said, train time is any time. He said, you talking about that train coming right there? And we looked down the track about a mile, and a train on that side track wasn't running 100 miles an hour, but he was traveling.
Yeah.
So I had to jump out of the truck and back 3 cars up, you run into different situations, and there we sat on the track, something I was telling him not to do. Yeah, so
it's funny how that works.
I was in a truck stop in Iowa a couple of years ago, that big truck stop, and it was a snowstorm, and I was in a rental car, and I stopped to get a charge of coffee and get something because they were clearing the roads pretty good. And I was down looking for a little snack or something. I forget what it was. And I heard somebody call my name, and I turned around, and like I said, it was cold and it was snowing, and there was a big driver that had his big coat on and looked like a beard and had his hat pulled down, and he called my name. Now, he was between me and the cash register. And I'm thinking, how did he know who I was, and what have I done? And I'm thinking, oh, my God, he looked like the abominable snowman. And he started laughing. He said, you trained me how to drive a truck 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm still driving. So we went over and had a cup of coffee
That's
and
good.
he told me about his kids, his grandkids, what he was doing. He's driving his truck, and took me out and showed me his truck. And like you said, it was like an apartment inside. And so there's people that you helped along the way, and they remember that, and that I got them in the career and trained them in their career.
Today, we highlight Road Dog Coffee Company and their premium coffee for the highway hero within. Your first order comes with a 20% discount. You can select from many different coffees, from the blonde roast, named Women Truckers Love Coffee, to the popular medium roast, Long Haul, to their dark roast, Black Dog. Road Dog Coffee Company offers its coffee to anyone who supports and loves our highway heroes. Road Dog Coffee is focused on its mission of supporting the men and women of transportation who work hard, day in and day out, because they love what they do and we love them. Your initial order receives a 20% discount. After that, use the code MACK15, no spaces, to receive a 15% discount on your additional purchases. That's MACK15. Visit RoadDogCoffee.com today and get on the road. We are here with Rick Cates. He's a consultant with Rick Cates Trucking. So you had a career with Burlington Industries, and there was a transition to go to North Carolina Trucking Association.
Correct.
What was that like? How did you find out about it, and what did you do there?
I was the director of safety, security, and training, also at the NCTA. And when they announced that transportation, they were going to close because we had downsized so much, ironically, the president of the NCTA called me. I lived in Burlington, the North Carolina Trucking Association's headquarters in downtown Raleigh. And he said, I know it's, and the announcement was the day before, and he said, I know it's young and I know it's new. And he said, don't know what you got plans. He said, because I had worked with them through the company with the championships and the Safety Management Council and so forth, making contacts like we all do. He said, before you make a decision where you're going to work, let me talk to you. He said, give me a chance to talk to you. And I said, his name was Charlie Deal. Great guy, one of the best guys I've ever. I worked for some great people. And he was just a great guy, an attorney in Raleigh and the president of the association. And so I did. I gave him that courtesy, and I never talked to anybody else. And I made the trip from Burlington, North Carolina to Raleigh every day.
It's about an hour.
About an hour, about a one-cupper. Yeah,
I understand.
So I went down there and developed some programs, and we won the Safety Management Council, I'm glad to say, 8 times the best Safety Management Council in the United States, the North Carolina Trucking Association.
How was that measured?
By the programs that you have, the programs you work. We work with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. We work with the North Carolina law enforcement agencies, Governor's Highway Safety Program. These projects and bounce it up against the other 50 state trucking associations.
Yeah.
And it would be judged at the American Trucking Associations, and we were selected 8 times while I was there.
That's great. That is really good. What was going through my mind is that I've been with Mack for about 1.5 years now.
Okay.
And prior to, not in the trucking industry. And the awareness that came to me after working here, it's like all of a sudden I'm seeing all the Mack trucks.
Yes.
Of course, right?
Yep.
I'm now working there. I'm proud. I'm happy. And you see the big word mark on the grill. They're everywhere. I have been driving for a long time, and I share the road with the truckers, but that awareness is important. Having something like this, once again, we share the road with the truckers. They're everywhere. They deliver everything we have. In fact, your buddy Van Staley.
Yes.
If you bought it, a trucker brought it.
You better believe it.
Right? And so having that awareness is really going to help everybody on the roads be patient, understand what they're dealing with, and be courteous at the same time.
Yes.
What were some of your responsibilities with North Carolina Trucking?
Well, we had members, and then the members are our customers, and basically everybody's our customer, in society. But the members were our customers, so my job was to work as a liaison with the authorities in the state. And if they had questions or they were going to get audited by the authorities and so forth, my job was to act as a liaison a lot of time and give them the answers, help them with the audit, promote safety and get safety programs that we had and share the safety programs, help set them up a training program like I did. We're helping everybody with the STP program. If they didn't have one, I would share it with them. If I could keep one driver safe on the highway, I would do it. And we had members from the largest, UPS, FedEx, the Old Dominions, the STs, all the way down to the bread and butter of the trucking industry, and that is the less than 25 trucks.
It's like over 99% of the industry is that group.
Correct. And they don't have the resources, a lot of them, so that's where we came in. They don't have the resources to have the big corporate training program, safety programs. And a lot of times in the 100 fleet, 50 fleet, 50 to 25, the safety director usually was head of HR, safety, swept the dock, helped with maintenance, and so forth. They wore a lot of hats to keep the wheels turning. And we assisted them also with their truck driving championships if they had one.
What's involved in an audit?
They would check to see the hours of service. Now we got the EODs, and they would go back and check the driver's qualification file, check fuel tax, make sure they was paying the fuel tax and so forth, and make sure there was no red dyed fuel in the tanks and the off-road non-tax paid fuel. And also they would check the driver's medical cards. They would check everything from top to bottom to make sure that insurance regulations, make sure they had the proper insurance to be able to operate.
Yeah.
And some of those audits you could do in a couple of days. Some of them it would take a week and a half to go through all the files, because we usually did a percentage, get 10% of the whole workforce.
Yeah.
So if they only had 30 drivers, it didn't take long. And maintenance, do their maintenance files and so forth, what they kept up with. Yeah.
That's important to be a part of an association as a smaller employer, as an owner-operator, because you don't have, as we were just talking about, you don't have the resources that a large company would. So
Correct.
You can kind of borrow the knowledge as a collective wholes from this organization.
Yes.
Because it could be scary for that first audit. What do I do?
Exactly.
I've got to run next week, and I got to stay in business.
And the President Ben down at the NCT, North Carolina Trucking Association, they do a tremendous job now going out and assisting. One thing about the association, if they do not have someone on staff that can help that carrier, they know who to call, or that person is probably a member of the association, where the Ben or whoever can send them over to that carrier to help that carrier.
So in addition to helping with audits, it seems like the STP and the training follows you along your career. You also do some investigative work, right, for crashes and assist in that regard as well at this point?
We do. Yeah, Joe, we did, and I still do. I get a call, and a lot of times they will want me to review a crash to see what I can see. But sometimes they do call and ask if I can go out and look at the scene and so forth. And you're going back, I think I shared a story with you. Most of the crashes we have in the law enforcement today, they do an excellent job. They set up the reconstruction crash scene. Most of it, we can just get a report from the authorities. They have all the lasers, the cameras, and can measure with the lasers and so forth. Back in the day, I think I shared a story where I was investigating one in Hickory, and I had to go get some measurements at the busiest intersection in Hickory, North Carolina, and traffic. I had on a vest, but traffic wouldn't stop. They didn't know who I was, and they wasn't going to stop for me anyway. But I would run out in the intersection, take a picture, and run back. And it wasn't just a little bit. A North Carolina trooper and Hickory policeman showed up and got out, parked in a parking lot behind me, and put their hats on. And I'm thinking, what in the world? They came up and said, how you doing? I introduced myself and told them what I was doing. They said, yeah, we know. We got 7 calls from motorists that somebody was out here running around in traffic. We want to see what it was. So they were nice enough to hold traffic from me briefly so I could. The skid marks were still there, and it was just a situation where he said, she said, they said, and big box store was across the street. So when we left, and I exchanged pleasantries with them, and I went across the street and asked the gentleman in security, could I see his camera for the day before? And he said, you're talking about that crash that was out there? I said, yes, sir. And sure enough, in trucking, they said that we hit them, they hit us, and so forth. The camera proved that the other party didn't make a safe move. So you get into some I could go on and on about some of those crash investigations as well. Yeah.
Well, truckers now are using dash cams, both forward-facing, in cab as well, because all those questions, all the benefits of the doubt can now be proven with video.
One of the great resource, a great product that we have on cars and vehicles and trucks and so forth. Yeah. And you're exactly right. It can, exonerate. You know what I'm saying? They see a big truck, they see the dollar signs and so forth. So the forward-facing cameras, rear-facing, and some technology, we even have a camera on the rear of the trailer that connects up with a connector and so forth. So technology is a great thing if it's used in the right way.
So you were with North Carolina Trucking for how long?
14 years.
Yeah.
North Carolina Trucking Association. And then I went to the American Trucking Associations as the director and as the executive director of the Safety Management Council. And as I said, I'd been with them, associated with the ATA, still am for going on 50-some years. At the National Truck Driving Championship this year will be my 53rd year.
They call you the senator.
They do. They gave me the
no politics.
No politics. They gave me the senator because a lot of times, and we have meetings, board meetings or committee meetings, and they said, well, that they need to make a change to one of the rules or regulations and so forth, and a lot of times. And that shows you're getting a little age on you. A lot of times, all the eyes and heads will turn and look and say, "Rick, what did they do back, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago?" And I'd say, that we did this, we did that. And incidentally, we just finished 2. This is our 2nd edition. The history of the National Truck Driving Championship. And journalist Eugene Malero and Jacob Pierce, who is the head of the Safety Management Council today, what I was doing, and he's the head, and myself and some other people contributed to that. We'll be selling that at the National Truck Driving Championship. We had the first edition last year, and then we had the 2nd edition this year. And you can go online and get it. But also, it's really funny to see. Going back, we got the championship when it was held in New York and held in Chicago and held in some of those big cities. But you can see they dressed up at the banquet in the best they had. But the drivers wore their uniforms and their chauffeurs' hats, so to speak, with their neckties and so forth. And really amazing to see the professionalism back then. And it's going to this year in Minneapolis to see the professionalism that we will see there.
It's consistent.
Truckers
are proud of what they do.
Yes.
They really wheel our economy from one place to another.
Correct. Yeah, and people complain about the trucks, and we started a program back in 1986 called the America's Road Team, and I was on the 2nd edition, that 1987. It is still going on. Volvo sponsors the American Road Team, and we still choose 12 to 18. We select 12 to 18 every 2 years to go out and be an ambassador for the trucking industry, men and women, and they do a tremendous job. But one thing when we came on and I was selected to be a member of the America's Road Team, we go out in schools, civic groups, and speak to all sorts of community involvement, trucking companies, Congress, Senate, and so forth. In '87, we were just coming off Smokey and the Bandit, trucking moves, and they had big tiger shark grill works and so forth, and those trucking movies. So we were trying to counteract those, and it was really interesting when you would meet somebody and, they said these big trucks are running over people and doing this and doing that, and what are you going to do about it? And, we're training drivers, and we seem to have turned the tide back in the 90s and so forth.
Yeah.
We hadn't had any movies like that since then. Yeah.
This Week in History.
This Week in History. On August 18, 1967, Mack Trucks merged with Signal Oil and Gas Company of Los Angeles, California. Beginning in 1962, change was happening at Mack Trucks, which improved profitability and boosted employee morale. There was increasing demand for trucks and fire apparatus, combined with the introduction of new Mack truck models. Also, existing management personnel were replaced with experienced truck manufacturing executives. In 1965, Macworld headquarters, which had been moved to Montvale, New Jersey, was moved back to Allentown, Pennsylvania. Consolidating manufacturing and executive leadership in one location resulted in increased efficiency, quicker decisions, and real economic savings. And the Mack Bulldog once again became a symbol of Mack's renewed vitality. Along the way, Mack acquired several companies, beginning with Brockway in 1956, Bernard in 1963, and Hayes in 1969. On August 18, 1967, Mack merged with the Signal Oil and Gas Company of Los Angeles, California. Operating as an autonomous division of the Signal Oil Company, Mack continued to increase its production. In April 1970, Mack moved into a new headquarters building in Allentown, and in 1972 broke ground for a new engineering and development test center and began expansion of the Hagerstown plant.
This has been This Week in History.
We are here with Rick Cates, consultant with Rick Cates Trucking, and over 50 years of experience in the industry. So you're with ATA at the time, and it's not like your first introduction to the organization because you've been involved with a truck driving championship for years.
54.
Let's dive into the truck driving championship. Let's talk about some history. When did it start? Why did it start? What are some of the goals for that competition?
Well, it started just like we did with America's Road Team. They wanted the drivers back then in 37 to be able to...
1937.
Yes, 1937, excuse me.
No, just to clarify, because it shocked me that it was been around for that long.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they wanted to be able to, the companies that started it wanted their drivers to be able to show their skills and how they negotiate everyday life, going around corners, having to park, having to deliver their freight in the large municipalities, and also on the highways today. Now, you can imagine back then, 1937, the highways were all two-lane highways. And we've held the National Truck Driving Championship every year with the exception of 2 years from World War II. And we didn't have it, naturally. And then when COVID, we did not have it. I think it was 2020 that were not able to have it. But every year since, it has changed. The people's, the way we look and so forth has changed. The trucks naturally have changed. And now we have the interstate system. So you think how long it used to take a truck to go from New York to L.A. in 1937. And today, when a double team, you can look at 56 hours, and it's not that long, 48, 56 hours. I don't know it exact now. And from here to New York, used to take all day. It was a 14-hour trip. And now, 8 hours, you go right up to, you hit the Jersey Pike and you're there. But back then, they wanted the drivers to be able to show their skills, and that's the reason it started. Now, it consisted back then and still today, but it consisted of the skills test on the course. We got 9 classes. We got straight truck, 3-axle, 4-axle, 5-axle, 5-axle tank, 5-axle sleeper, and we got a step van, and we got the flatbed. So the step van is the National Truck Driving Championship and step van competition. So the step vans are over here, that same course, but it's a different, they're in a different category.
Yeah.
And we have the written test. It's a test of 40 questions. Each question counts as 2 points. And then we got a book called Facts for Drivers. It comes out every year.
Yeah.
And some of these drivers are pretty good. Some of them ace the test. Sure I do, and I'm one of the authors of the test, still am. And then we have the pre-trip inspection, one of the most important components where they go around the truck, get 10 minutes to inspect the truck. And we have the personal interview. Some states still have the personal interview, but we found at the National Truck Driving Championship, everybody that were able to qualify for the championship came with a uniform on, and they're already there because they are accident-free or crash-free for a whole year. We knew that. And they can pass the written test, and we knew that at the state competition. So in the essence of time, not to take anything away, but we already got the best of the best at the championship. Yeah. So there's no need going through the interview. They were going to ask them the questions again that they were just asked at the state. They had a set of canned questions that they asked them. So a lot of states still use the interview, but the nationals, we don't use it that much anymore.
Yeah. What has changed over the years, when it comes down to the competition?
The drivers, we roll in Bulldog, and some of the drivers, we go back to, we got one driver here in North Carolina, Cletus Frank, who used to drive for Central and Central Motor Lines out of Charlotte, and he won the state championship 16 times. He went to the nationals. And you still see today we have national champions come and repeat that's been in it 10, 8, 10, 12, 11 times. So Cletus kind of set the bar really high, kind of like Jack Nicklaus with the championship. Jack Nicklaus won 15 major championships, and it's hard to. He set the bar high. He's talking about what changed. The trucks have changed. We got better trucks and so forth, and we showcase those trucks. The drivers and their families have changed, but the camaraderie has not.
So after your work with NC Trucking and ATA, you moved on. I think it was with an insurance company.
Marsh & McLennan. Yeah. Great company, great people, and so forth. Did basically the same thing, doing audits.
Yep.
If anything a client needed, training, I'd share the training package. Yep. We did PACE training. That stands for Plan, Analyze, Communicate, and Execute. Work with some great people. One thing about Marsh, if you look at the big scope, they had aviation, maritime, all over the world. Finance, trucking, transportation, cars, ergonomics. They just got a vast array of departments and experts in each one of these departments and so forth, second to none. They, I was able to go to Canada and with trucking companies and our clients up there to work with them, and small trucking companies. Again, going back to the 25 truck, we were their broker for the 25 truck operation, going to help them to the large rental companies that had the big fleets. We would help them and so forth. And you're talking about not just driving, but loading and unloading, strapping equipment. Now, they had their policies and procedures in place, but we would go out to see if we could help them in any way and, doing certain things that would help them stay safe.
Yeah. Truckers are finding a difficult time these days with insurance.
Yes.
Prices are going up, covering legal fees, crashes, and the inherent risks of just being on the road.
Yes.
What can some trucking companies today do to really mitigate that risk, be ready and prepared?
Find discrepancies where one department thought the other department was taking care of it, and it kind of fell through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell them, no, you can't do that, because it's like getting audited by the IRS. They know where to look.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come in, they're going to look through the cracks. It's just like I always say, OSHA, got the OSHA inspector, when he comes in and does an audit, first thing he's going to do is make all the people in the office mad, because he's going to go in and tell them unplug all those little heaters that's up under the desk trying to keep them warm. Same way with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration inspector. Nice people. They're just doing their job, but they're doing it for a reason, to keep the motoring public safe.
Mm-hmm.
So when they go in, when we do the audit, we do it. We got a checklist. I use the same audit as they use,
mm-hmm.
same one, same exact one. So if you get in that checklist and everything's in order, when they come in behind you, they're going to use the same checklist.
Right.
But it's like going to the doctor. You need to lose weight. You need to walk. You need to lose weight. I tell them you need to do so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do it, you're not listening to what the people are telling you to help you. Yeah.
Just like in school, if you do a little bit every day,
Yep.
read ahead, study, all of a sudden when the test comes, you don't have to cram for it. Less stress, more prepared, better outcomes.
Thank you. Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
I'm
Sure.
guessing that's what you've found, and that's kind of what you preach, if you will, now that you're a consultant.
Yes.
I know. So what's that like for you?
It's great to go out and see them. When people call you, they're needing help.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time. And a lot of times the help can come over the phone. Or they can, the computers and so forth. They can fax you. We don't use fax machines anymore, but they can send you a document over the internet. Email and so forth. And you look at the document and look what they've got, and if the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration or a mix-up officer has been in and say we got fined for this. And look at it, and sometimes, and just say I work with them, and still do work with all the enforcement and so forth, and they do a tremendous job, because I tell anybody, we call, they come. They come regardless,
mm-hmm.
regardless who they are. We call, they come.
Yeah.
So let them do their job, and they're doing that job. But sometimes, and I tell them, they'll check the wrong box. So follow up. And sometimes the wrong box gets checked. They'll call you up and say, "Hey, we checked the wrong box. Take that off. And we'll data queue it." And they're great to work with a lot. Most of the time.
In retrospect, what are some of your favorite stories?
I've got that's 50 years. Yeah, I reckon the best ones are seeing people stay compliant. Mm-hmm. Seeing the drivers be successful, mm-hmm. seeing a driver retire with his family and grandkids, and had a great truck driving career. Every career is not going to be like mine or a lot of other people. There's 9 million truck drivers out there, and at one time or point they're going to retire. They have driven a truck their whole career because that's what they did, that's what they love to do, and they're going to retire without a whole lot of fanfare from the whole industry, but their family and their company is going to congratulate them for what they've done. And to see them go through a whole career and then retire with that, that's satisfying and gratifying.
All right, so final 2 questions.
Sure.
What are you going to be doing in a couple weeks?
I'm going to be at the National Truck Driving Championship in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Excellent.
Yes.
How can people find out about that, maybe participate in future years?
Yes, go online and just, here we go, Google or DuckDuckGo, whichever one you got and so forth, and Google the National Truck Driving Championships or Google American Trucking Association's Truck Driving Championships, and it will pop right up. and tell you the accommodations, how to get there, how to compete. Also, your state truck driving championships. We have it on a local level, state level, to get to the nationals. Mm-hmm. We have approximately 400 and some drivers coming to compete. Yep. But also, that we're going there, and where we'll have the book, the history of the National Truck Driving Championship, mm-hmm. first edition, second edition, and so forth. So it's kind of like going to a family reunion. I will see people there that I've been seeing for 30-some years, 40-some years. Next year will be my last one.
Got it.
Yes. Next year will be in Pittsburgh. It'll be my last championship after 54 years next year. And my granddaddy always said, I remember what he said, you want to retire 1 year too early, son, rather than waiting 1 year too late. And not that I don't enjoy it, I do, but it's time to, like George Strait said, it's time for a cowboy to ride away. So, yeah, I think I've done my part. Yes.
That is terrific. I guess I lied. There are 3 questions.
Yeah.
If someone's interested in reaching out to you, whether they're a single owner-operator or a bigger company interested in having a conversation, how do they find you?
Well, email. My email is rcates trucking, just letter R, CATES, trucking, @gmail.com. Phone number, I don't mind giving it out. It's 336-516-5188. And that's the same number I've had, I think, since cell phones came out. Yeah.
Excellent. Rick, this has been fantastic.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Yes, sir.
My pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Bulldog with Rick Cates, consultant with Rick Cates Trucking. We're working hard to provide stories and topics that keep you entertained. Let us know what you think about this week's podcast. What would you like for us to cover, and who would you like to hear on Beyond the Bulldog? Our goal is to provide an informative and entertaining podcast. Please leave your suggestions in the comments section below.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure to follow the Bulldog.